Rich Fiancee made me pay for everything to prove I wasn't a gold digger because of his past traumas. So, I just left him after years of financial abuse. Hey, Reddit, I'm Becky, and I have a story that might just blow your minds. It's been a hell of a ride, and honestly, I need to get this off my chest. This is the story of how my rich fiancé, Stan, put me through years of financial abuse because of his past traumas, and how I finally found the strength to leave him. Stan and I met about 5 years ago. I was working as a marketing coordinator at a mid-sized firm, and he was a successful entrepreneur, running his own tech company. We met at a mutual friends party, and sparks flew instantly. Stan was charming, funny, and incredibly good-looking. He had that aura of confidence and success that drew people in. I was smitten. From the beginning, it was clear that Stan was well off. He lived in a penthouse apartment, drove a fancy car, and had a lifestyle that screamed money. But I wasn't interested in his wealth. I was genuinely attracted to his personality and drive. We started dating, and things moved quickly. Within 6 months, we were officially a couple. Stan had this thing about paying for everything in the beginning. He took me to the best restaurants, bought me expensive gifts, and always insisted on covering the bill. At first, it was flattering, but I made sure to reciprocate whenever I could. I didn't want him to think I was with him for his money. One night, about a year into our relationship, Stan sat me down and told me about his past. He had been engaged before, to a woman named Lisa. According to Stan, Lisa had only been interested in his wealth and had left him heartbroken and broke when she found someone richer. It had taken him years to recover financially and emotionally. He admitted that he was still scarred from that experience and was terrified of being used again. I felt for him. I really did. So, when he suggested that we split expenses to prove I wasn't a gold digger, I agreed without hesitation. He framed it as a way to build trust and ensure our relationship was based on love, not money. It sounded reasonable at the time, and I wanted to do everything I could to make him feel secure. Little did I know, this was the beginning of a long, painful journey. At first, splitting expenses wasn't a big deal. We would go out to dinner and I'd cover half the bill. When we went on trips, we'd split the costs down the middle. It felt fair, and I was happy to contribute. But over time, things started to change. Stan began to scrutinize every expense. He wanted to see receipts for everything I bought, even if it was just a coffee or a pair of shoes. He'd question me about my spending habits and lecture me about saving money. It felt like I was being monitored constantly, and it was exhausting. One time, I remember we went on a weekend getaway to a beach resort. I had saved up for months to afford my share of the trip, and I was excited to relax and enjoy myself. But the entire trip, Stan was nitpicking every little thing. He complained about the price of the hotel, the cost of meals, and even the gas money. It was supposed to be a romantic getaway, but it turned into a stressful ordeal. Then came the bigger expenses. Stan suggested that we move in together to save money on rent. It made sense financially, and I was excited to take our relationship to the next level. But when we started looking at apartments, it became clear that Stan had no intention of paying his share. He insisted that we find a place within my budget, even though he could easily afford something nicer. I ended up paying the majority of the rent, while he contributed a fraction of what he should have. Things escalated from there. Stan started expecting me to cover more and more of our expenses. Groceries, utilities, and even his personal expenses became my responsibility. He always had an excuse. His money was tied up in investments. He was saving for the future, or he had unexpected business expenses. I was drowning in bills, but I kept telling myself it was temporary and that it would get better. But it didn't. It only got worse. By the 3rd year of our relationship, I was completely financially drained. My savings were gone, my credit cards were maxed out, and I was struggling to make ends meet. Stan, on the other hand, was thriving. His business was booming, and he was making more money than ever. Yet, he still expected me to pay for everything. I remember one particular incident that was the breaking point for me. It was Stan's birthday, and I wanted to do something special for him. I saved up for months to buy him a luxurious watch he had been eyeing. I spent a small fortune, but I didn't care. I loved him and wanted to make him happy. On his birthday, I surprised him with the watch. He was thrilled and thanked me profusely. But then he dropped a bombshell. He told me that he had planned a trip to Europe for us as a birthday celebration, and he expected me to cover my half of the expenses. I was stunned. I had just spent all my savings on his gift, and now he wanted me to shell out more money for a trip I couldn't afford. I tried to explain my situation, but he was relentless. He accused me of being ungrateful and selfish. He said that if I really loved him, I would find a way to make it work. I felt trapped and manipulated. I couldn't believe that the man I loved was treating me this way. That night, I had a long, hard look at my life. I realized that I had been bending over backward to prove my love and loyalty to Stan, but it was never enough. He kept moving the goalposts, and no matter how much I gave, he always wanted more. I was tired, broke, and emotionally drained. I knew I had to make a change. Leaving Stan was the hardest decision I ever made. Despite everything, I still loved him, but I knew that staying with him was destroying me. I had to put myself first for once. I started making plans to leave. I found a small apartment I could afford on my own and started packing my things. I didn't tell Stan right away because I knew he would try to manipulate me into staying. I needed to be strong and stick to my decision. When the day finally came, I sat Stan down and told him I was leaving. He was furious. He accused me of being a gold digger and using him for his money. The irony of his accusation was not lost on me. I had been paying for everything for years, and now he was calling me a gold digger? I didn't argue with him. I just packed my bags and walked out the door. It was one of the most liberating moments of my life. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders, and for the first time in years, I felt free. Starting over wasn't easy. I had to rebuild my finances from scratch, and it took a toll on me emotionally. But I knew I had made the right decision. I was no longer living under the shadow of Stan's insecurities and manipulations. I focused on my career and started saving money again. I reconnected with friends I had lost touch with during my relationship and started enjoying life again. It was a slow process, but I was determined to rebuild my life. It's been a year since I left Stan, and I'm in a much better place now. I have a stable job, a cozy apartment, and a sense of independence that I had lost during my time with Stan. I've learned a lot about myself and what I want in a relationship. I've also learned the importance of financial independence and self-respect. I will never again allow someone to control and manipulate me the way Stan did. I deserve better, and I won't settle for anything less. As for Stan, I heard through mutual friends that he's still single and still paranoid about being used for his money. I feel sorry for him in a way. His past traumas have left him unable to trust and love fully, and that's a sad way to live. But I'm no longer responsible for his happiness. I'm focused on my own well-being and future, and for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful and excited about what's to come.